what would a healthy person do at this juncture? Like, what choice would a healthy person make? And stepping into that identity before you get to your goal weight. Because I think a lot of people have this self-concept like, oh, I'm just a fat person who's trying to be skinny. Then that identity clouds every choice you make. And you keep kicking the can down the road thinking, well, once I see this number, then I'll be more confident. I'll be a different person. I'll feel better. And it's like, you have to just shift that early on. I am now a fit and healthy person who does what a fit and healthy person does. And along the way, you become that person.
Welcome to Cut the Crap with Beth and Matt, the world's #1 no bullshit health and fitness podcast.
Are you ready to cut the crap with your diet and exercise, get strong as fuck, and build a healthy relationship with food? Then you've come to the right place.
Let's go. If you'd like to support us in the podcast, join our Patreon where you get exclusive content, which consists of monthly workouts you can do at home or at the gym, monthly challenges that are either strength, habit, or mindset based, and access to over 100 plus low-calorie, high-protein, family-friendly meals. These are all designed by a professional chef who is certified in nutrition. These recipes are already in MyFitnessPal for easy fucking tracking. New recipes are also added each week.
We believe that fitness is for everyone, so this is our way of getting you started on your health and fitness journey at a price most everyone can afford. So what the fuck are you waiting for? We'll see you in the Patreon.
Esther Avant, that's how you say your last name, right? Avant?
The family says Avant. I married into it and also thought it was Avant. But
yeah, Matt asked me. I'm like, I think it's Avant, okay. But I'll ask her to make sure. She came into the gym that I was coaching. Gosh, this must have been like 4 or 5 years ago because I wasn't online coaching at that point. She was taking the same class that I was taking, a small group personal training class. And my boss at the time, Hunter, who's now actually my business partner, did he know you from before?
I think maybe I had reached out to him when I saw that he had a gym in Thomaston and I was like, I'll be there. Can I drop in? Mm-hmm. So when I met you, it was the first time I had met him in person also.
Yeah. So small world.
Yeah, it really is. I saw this podcast just raved about over and over again. There's a thread in a Peloton mom group where somebody's looking for podcast recommendations and like over and over and over again. You guys were recommended. And
I love that.
Cool. Yeah, it really was. That was my first introduction to it. And I was like, wait a second. She looks familiar. Mm-hmm. And then I went down the rabbit hole that is the internet and catching up on your digital life the last few years.
Right? A lot's changed.
So cool to see.
For sure.
That's so awesome.
So Esther, why don't you let everyone know who you are, what you do, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So I've kind of been doing this forever. I'm an online health and weight loss coach now. We do a combination of exercise, nutrition, kind of the standard stuff with a real emphasis on developing the skills and the tools necessary for maintenance. Because I think that's really the biggest missing piece for people is like the meal plans are out there, the workout programs are out there, the what to do, that's relatively straightforward, especially if you're listening to podcasts like this and, Jordan Syatt and kind of those people who are really like shooting it straight. That stuff is just the tip of the iceberg. It's everything else about your lifestyle and your mindset. That's really the challenge. So our focus is on kind of letting that stuff be simple. So then we can dive into what else is standing in the way. Is it alcohol? Is it boundaries? Is it relationships? Is it your self-worth? That's the meat and potatoes of lasting change. So that's what we focus on. I have been coaching in some capacity for the last 17 years. I was kind of introduced to working out in high school when I had a very funny moment a few weeks ago when I was talking about coming home to Maine for the summer. I was talking to a friend and I said something about like, oh, the nice new Y in Camden, which is where I first started working out. And then realized that nice new Y is 20 years old. I was going to say,
it's pretty old now.
And that was a real sobering moment.
That's rude.
Yeah, right? So that was kind of it. I went to a small high school. Everybody played sports. You didn't have to be good, which I wasn't. And the gym was really kind of a positive outlet for me where I didn't feel like people were looking at me. I didn't feel like I was letting anybody down if I couldn't coordinate my body parts in the right ways. So I had a really positive experience with the gym at a pretty influential time in my life when I was picking a college major. Ended up going to Boston University for exercise science, personal training at that gym. And it's just like kind of little by little, I started seeing the need for the next thing. It was like, the exercise is great, but I have all these clients who are, meeting me twice a week, still not losing any weight. Why is that? Oh, because we're not talking about nutrition. So I started pursuing certifications. I interned with Precision Nutrition for a year, got both of their certs. And, at the same time, I'm now in my 20s and I'm struggling myself. I have all this textbook knowledge and I'm still fumbling around, binging and restricting and doing all of the textbook stuff. And that's sort of when the psychology and the behavior modification piece became necessary. And so I was like, how do I not just make this work for myself, but how do I take all of this information and help other people implement it in their lives, which are different from mine? That it can't just be, here's what I did, do that same thing. It has to be unique to that person's lifestyle and their needs. So that was sort of the evolution of my career. And the women we work with now are largely other working moms. I have a 4-year-old who I made swear up and down that he would stay in the kitchen and not make any noise. And, that sort of opened my eyes to the challenges that moms face. And the women we work with now are largely in that position. And the women that I think I gravitate towards and who gravitate towards me are ones who remind me of my own mom, who had struggles with her weight. I lost her to cancer coming up on 12 years ago. And just always in the back of my mind, I knew that she dieted. I knew she did, Weight Watchers and Slim Fast. And as I started developing these skills and these tools and this information, started really piecing together like what was missing for her and what would have made a difference for her that this stuff would stick and she wouldn't have yo-yoed. And that's really, where I've devoted my career now, is to help other women like her get out of that cycle and reach their goals, pursue whatever it is that kind of appeals to them once they believe in themselves and have proven that they can do what they set their minds to. So that's my very long-winded answer of who I am.
I love that. There's a lot of golden nuggets in there too. I feel like, they don't teach the behavioral and the psychological aspects of fat loss and weight gain and all that stuff in school. I know at some point within my career too, I'm like, it's not all about tracking calories and macros and doing this. It really comes down to people's mindset. And so where did you start to figure that out, and how did you apply that to your coaching?
So I think there were a couple things that really stand out. My family just moved back to San Diego after 10 years. So I'm thinking back to last time I was here, I was in my mid-20s and really in the throes of binging and restricting, kind of that all or nothing mentality of Monday through Friday morning, I'm going to be quote unquote perfect. And that meant eat as little as possible and exercise as much as possible. And then Friday, because I'm feeling good about myself and because I deserve it, I'm going to eat and drink my face off. I'm going to do that until midnight on Sunday. And then I'm going to feel so awful that I'm going to swear I'm never going to do it again. And I'm going to start over Monday. That was one piece of it. And then I have other distinct memories when we were living in Virginia Beach of being in the cheat day mentality. Every Sunday, I would walk down to the beach. I would get a froyo. I would get the big cup. I would fill it up as high as I could with all the toppings. I would eat it like a Hoover vacuum. It would be gone in, probably under a minute.
Didn't even get to enjoy it.
No, not at all. I was so anticipating it. I couldn't control myself.
Like
I would
a
walk
planned
home.
binge day.
That was exactly what it turned into, because I would feel so crappy by the time I got home that it became a free-for-all. And I was like, well, you already blew it. Mm-hmm. So eat everything else you can get your hands on. Really make yourself feel disgusting, so that you never want to do this again. And then Monday, you'll start over. And around I went for a really long time, just really kind of finally reached a point where I was like, you cannot keep doing this and expect that somehow you're going to behave differently. You can't keep buying the peanut butter and eating 15/16 of it in the parking lot with a spoon and then throwing away the rest and pretending it didn't happen. That cannot continue. And then just kind of really not knowing what else there was, but knowing it can't be that. And starting to kind of reverse engineer, what do I think is causing this? Like, well, maybe if I didn't deny myself all the stuff that I like 6 days a week, I wouldn't need to binge on frozen yogurt. And when I first was introduced to tracking macros, I can't even remember like kind of how that came about. It was so eye-opening for me. And the main thing was that I realized how much I love potatoes.
Right.
And how if all foods are, for these intents and purposes, if they're all created equally, I would rather have potatoes than frozen yogurt. And that was like a stop me in my tracks moment of like, well, what am I doing then? Why am I forcing myself to gorge on this froyo that I don't even actually care about that much when I could have whatever I want? So that was sort of the beginning of finding it's cliche, but like finding food freedom and allowing myself the opportunity to start doing things differently. And I think the other thing was that I started writing letters to myself, or that's kind of an elegant way of saying it. I started jotting down notes, and I would do it when I had just binged and I was feeling really awful. And I wanted to remind myself that that was going to be how I felt next time, because it was so easy for my brain to play games on me and be like, no, this time is going to be different. You'll just stop at a reasonable amount and you won't do that again. And I kept doing it. So when I started writing down how terribly I felt afterwards and keeping that somewhere that I could look at it and be like, is that how I want to feel in 20 minutes? Then I started doing the opposite of that. And when I did control myself and when I did behave in a way that I was proud of, I wrote down how I felt then too. And it was such a stark comparison of you made these choices. You can keep going down that familiar road that you know ends poorly, or you can do the thing that feels harder right now, resist those temptations, just kind of, surf the craving, ride the wave, whatever you want to say, and know how much better you're going to feel afterwards. And then it really was just like every single opportunity, try to make the better choice. And it wasn't ever this like linear thing where it was like, oh, I never struggled with it again. Where I saw progress was that like it was happening less frequently.
Mm-hmm.
When it did, it wasn't as severe. And I was able to bounce back faster from it. And now it's probably been a decade since I've really struggled with that. And that's really all it was just kind of deciding something has to be different. And I'm going to keep trying until I figure it out and stop expecting perfection.
Mm-hmm.
That's important right there, to stop expecting perfection.
Right. And it really becomes a choice of doing it and not doing it, but just being more proactive to not doing it than doing it.
Right.
I've listened to a lot of podcasts about binge eating and things like that. It really is that one deciding moment where like, okay, I'm just not going to do it anymore. And you just don't, but that doesn't mean there's going to be setbacks. You just keep moving forward.
Totally.
Right. You're going to slip up. You're human. It's fine. Food is very ingrained in all of our emotions. But also, you do just get to decide, I'm calling the shots here. I don't need to just accept that this is how my life is going to be.
I'm in control here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so empowering.
Right?
For sure. What was the biggest catalyst of change for you then when, you started going down this self-discovery, I guess, and just this awareness building? Was there a specific method or way that you kind of just approached this, or were you more so just fucking tired?
I think that was it. I think I just didn't want to keep doing it. And I can't now. It's honestly been so long since I've like really engaged in that mentality, that behavior. It's so hard to remember, but it definitely wasn't this like very distinct flip of a switch. It was this very gradual kind of evolution of, oh, you know what? I haven't done it this week. I'm not as hard on myself when I do. And just kind of little by little became a thing of the past. And I think it was just, I'm tired of this.
Gradual progress over time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The unglamorous stuff that
you progressively overloaded
it.
Right.
Exactly.
Love it.
That's a great way to put it. I love that.
Right.
Yeah. You said something, both of you kind of said something in there too about, expecting the perfection. Not only that, expecting perfection, but I think it's also unrealistic. And you guys said this was to never binge or overeat or emotionally eat again. I think so many people think that I'm never going to do this again. So that's already setting that unrealistic expectation up front, because food's amazing. Who doesn't fucking love food? We're emotional beings, and that's okay. Sometimes we're going to use food to help ourselves feel better. But the idea is that we're just no longer turning to food for every fucking inconvenience in life. It's just we're doing it occasionally. There's more important coping mechanisms that we can build other than just relying on food.
Yeah. One of the big things is developing, like you just said, that's kind of the awareness in the moment of, I don't have to continue behaving on autopilot right now. I can stop for a second and think, like, what are my options here? And like you said, Matt, there's nothing wrong with using food for all these things. It's largely about the frequency, the intention, and that you're being intentional. Have you stopped and thought, do I want to use food to cope right now? Or is there something else that I could or would rather do?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll choose food, sometimes for positive, sometimes for negative. That's all fine, as long as you have made that choice and subtext, you're willing to deal with the consequences,
Right.
Mhm.
which I think is what a lot of people avoid,
Right.
where we're like, hey, yeah, I'm intentionally doing this. I'm going to enjoy every bite of it. And then, weigh in
then we feel
around.
guilty
Right.
and we start shaming ourselves and restricting and killing ourselves with cardio, right? That's not what we want. If you can make that decision and own it for sure.
And the pause.
Yeah.
The pausing is so
power
important.
of the
No one
pause.
pauses. It's like, okay, like Esther said, you have just for a second, like, what do we really want here? Am I needing some, like a hug? or do I really want the fucking cookie? And so either choice is okay, but you need to like think about your actions and what's behind them.
Right. And two, I think the consequences that they have in that it's very easy to say that you're okay with indulging however often in the moment. And okay, yes, I want that instant gratification. But then when kind of the time comes to pay the piper and you're maybe not seeing the progress that you're looking for, then kind of turning around and being like, but I'm doing everything. And it's like, well, there is, yes, you get to choose. And also then you need to be comfortable with what that means. If then you're not happy with the results you're getting, are you willing to make different choices in that moment when you do pause and realize that you have the option?
Mm-hmm. Are your actions meeting your goals?
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
right.
yes,
I feel like
yes.
there's often such a big disconnect of, well, I feel like I should be. And it's like, let's turn that self-awareness on and actually assess the effort that you're putting in consistently over what time period and see if they line up.
So then, Esther, do you teach mindful eating? Because you've said a few things in there that sound like mindful eating to me, talking about breaking autopilot and food freedom and things like that. Is that kind of an approach that you take?
Yeah, we do. I don't consider myself or my coaching to be at all dogmatic, really. I think there's so many tools available to us. And like with anything, it's rare that one single tool is going to be the solve all. We've probably all had those like 97-in-1 tool things that are basically useless at all of those purposes.
Yeah, they're not good at any of them.
Right, exactly. So there's not going to be this like one thing that makes it click. You really do need to develop a whole variety of tools.
Build a tool belt. Yeah.
Tool belt, exactly. And I think initially tracking food, calories, we do calories, protein, fiber, kind of the big rocks, invaluable. One of the most important things. Just like I think working in a restaurant is something everybody should do. And I think just about everybody should track their food for a while.
Yeah.
And also, it's not something that is necessary to do forever if you're doing it correctly in the first place, which is as a learning experience. So at the same time, I think it makes sense to develop the other tools that you need to then maintain more quote unquote intuitively. And that means diving into what we call the intangibles, which are like the stuff that's not numbers based. And it's more like, well, based on feel, like, how does this feel? How hungry are you? What, that sort of thing. I consider mindfulness kind of wrapped up in there, that it can be tough to wrap your head around if you're wanting a specific outcome because it is so intangible. But if your goal is to achieve a goal, be able to stay there and do it relatively easily, you need that piece of it.
Absolutely. Agree with everything you said there.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people are very apprehensive about tracking calories too, or they give up because they think it's too hard. I've actually been having a lot of this conversation lately. And what do you say to people that are in the beginning, they've never done it before, but they're like, I don't think I should do that. I don't want to do that. It seems like it's going to be too hard. How do you work around that?
Yeah. I think the first thing is helping people see how impactful their thoughts and the words that they're using are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going into it telling yourself it's going to be hard, it's going to be time consuming, it's going to be overwhelming.
It's going to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be. You're exactly right. But it doesn't have to be. So I think first, like, don't resent something that you're choosing to do. Recognize this is a tool that people who I trust are suggesting will be beneficial for me. So let me try to see it through that lens right from the jump. I'm not committing to a lifetime of it. I'm not, quitting my job to food track full time. I'm doing something that's going to help me reach a goal that's important to me. From there, I think it's important to stress that learning a new skill is always a little clunky and cumbersome, and that most adults aren't in the habit of putting themselves in the position to be a beginner in the first place. So it feels uncomfortable. Like you just don't want to. I don't want to start something that I'm not going to be good at. Okay, sure. That's reasonable. But also, if you take that approach to your life, you're never going to grow. You're never going to achieve anything. And who wants to live that way? So just accept, you're going to have to learn some things. You're going to stumble around a little bit. You're going to have times where you feel like this is hard. I don't know what I'm doing, which is where having a great coach can help and, streamline that and help you not hit all of those road bumps yourself. But just accept that that's part of the process. That is how you learn.
Failure is part of success.
And you're not going to be perfect at it.
You're not going to be perfect at it, right? I read a book once that referred to learning-sized mistakes. And I really like that. Like that if you start trying to collect the mistakes and see I love when a client takes the approach in the beginning of, I want to dive in so hard. I want to learn as much as I can. I want to make all the mistakes that I can while I have someone to help me so that I don't then make them later down the road on my own.
Because then you learn the skills to handle those mistakes, and you can look at them from an objective point of view and see how you can improve so you don't make that same mistake again in the future.
Right. And I think tracking often gets such a bad rap. But at the end of the day, all it is helping you develop awareness. And the awareness is what most of us don't want. I would rather just bury my head in the sand and tell myself I'm eating pretty well. Something must be wrong with me. It must be my hormones. It must be my age. It must be whatever. Because it can't possibly be something that I'm doing.
It's that willfulness.
Right. And when you commit to opening your eyes to that, it can be very unpleasant.
Yeah.
And then you have to take ownership, or you have the opportunity to take ownership. Do I want to continue making these choices, knowing where they're getting me? Or do I want to start changing things, knowing that they're going to get me to where I want to be? And that reality check, I think, is really the thing that people resent about tracking.
Yeah.
We all know that a complete night of sleep is essential when we're working towards optimizing our wellness and general well-being. And after all, we regularly talk about the importance of sleep on Cut the Crap. Now, Cured's Sleep Bundle, which combines their best-selling Zen and most potent CBN, is the answer to guaranteeing that you get that full night of sleep every single time. Zen is a blend of functional mushrooms, adaptogens, and full-spectrum cannabinoids. The CBN extract is a lesser-known cannabinoid found in the hemp plant, and these supplements were designed to support the two most critical stages of your body's natural sleep cycle, REM sleep and non-REM deep sleep. Cured's raw CBN oil contains 30 milligrams of CBD and 5 milligrams of CBN. Together, the CBD and CBN create a synergistic whole body effect. And when it starts to kick in, you'll notice every inch of your body soften into a deeper state of relaxation, as if you're laying beneath the comfort of a weighted blanket. And once you're asleep, Zen is there to ensure that your body is successfully cycling out of non-REM deep sleep into REM and back again. Now, some people can't fall asleep. Others can't stay asleep. And then there are those that fall asleep and stay asleep, but still struggle to spend enough time in each sleep stage. And this is definitely me. No matter what is keeping you from true rest and restoration, the Sleep Bundle is your solution. Think of it as a 1-2 punch for a body and brain reset. I've personally never been one to struggle with falling and staying asleep, but like I said, I have definitely struggled with getting quality sleep. I don't know what the heck I'm doing in my sleep, but it certainly wasn't quality. And ever since I've started incorporating the Cured Sleep Bundle into my bedtime routine, I wake up feeling refreshed and energetic instead of groggy and lethargic. In return, this allows me to tackle my busy life in a cool, calm, and collected way, ready to take on any challenge that presents itself. And right now, Cured is extending an exclusive offer to you, our listeners. You can grab Zen and CBN in the Sleep Bundle for an extra 20% off of Cured's already discounted price by visiting curednutrition.com/CTC and using the coupon code CTC at checkout. With this extra discount, you're getting 36% off the regular price. Yep, that's curednutrition.com/CTC and coupon code CTC at checkout to save an extra 20%. Improve your sleep, improve your life. Yeah. And you can think about it in terms of learning a new skill and how challenging that can be. We've been learning new skills our entire life. If we, as humans, we shied away from a challenge and learning new things, babies would never learn to fucking walk, you know? Like, think about it. A baby is a perfect example of failing repeatedly when they're learning how to walk. They're falling, they're bumping their head, they're a mess, right? But they don't fucking quit because it's hard. They're not throwing a fit. Who knows? But they keep at it. And they hone that skill. They build this the strength, the concentration, the mobility, whatever they fucking need, the hand-eye coordination, whatever they need. They develop it over time because they keep fucking trying. They don't just give up.
Yeah, so my son's 4.5, and I'm very aware of the words that I use when we're talking about something, when he gets frustrated and says I can't do it, and sort of redirecting in, of course you can. you just haven't practiced much, or you don't know how, or you need help or whatever. It's so much easier to say those things to our kids, but they apply to us too. And I think that's the perfect filter to think about things through is, okay, if your kid was starting to track their food or whatever new thing, and they were saying, I can't, it's too hard, how would you respond to that? It's much easier to give them advice and then sort of flip that back onto yourself. But that's really it. Like, it's just part of it. You just have to try. And that's the only way to get better. You cannot skip the part where you're a beginner and you feel like you're bad at everything.
No, nobody's a prodigy. I mean, most people aren't a prodigy whenever they try a new skill.
Right. And the thing is, it's like, if I knew something was going to help me get a result quicker, why wouldn't I want to try to do it? You know, if like, I'd be like, this is the golden ticket. Finally, I have like this light bulb moment that this is going to help me because I've been spinning my wheels for a long time. I'd be diving right in.
Like spin your wheels for 10 years being frustrated, or track for 6 months and build up some amazing awareness and learn something and get the fuck away from the cycle. Like
that's such a great point. And that's something I talk about a lot, that I think that exact thing is what highlights the need for the mental piece of weight loss.
Yes.
Because you're absolutely right. If you truly believed that this was the missing piece for you and that this would get you the result you're looking for, you would be eager to do the work. So if you're not, there's something missing. And largely it's because you have dieted for so long, you've had so many ups and downs that you don't believe anything is going to work.
Right.
And just like we were talking about earlier, when that is lodged in your brain somewhere, you're never going to give the good, your full effort to anything, because you're kind of hedging your bets. That way you can always fall back on, well, I only kind of half-assed it. I didn't do my best. I could have. That's then the work that needs to be done, is like, how do I get my mind in a position where I actually believe I can succeed and I'm willing to put in the work, that I'm committed enough to this goal and what's driving me, that I'm willing to deal with the ups and downs and the hard parts because I know it's going to be worth it in the end.
I think too, on the note of tracking, I think so many people just have a poor relationship or a poor experience with tracking because they've been burned by tracking in the past, right? And that's not because tracking was bad. It's because the program they were following was dog shit. Maybe they were following Weight Watchers and counting points, or Noom, put them on a 1,000 calorie diet. The problem wasn't the tracking, but they have that negative relationship with it now too. So again, that's the behaviors and that's the mindset around those type of things. It's a tool.
Yeah, tools can be
not a rule.
Tools can be abused. Tools can be helpful. It's all up to the person that's using them.
Yeah, it's like whacking your thumb with the hammer when you're trying to nail something and blaming the hammer for it. I never want to use a hammer again. They're dangerous. Like, well, was it maybe user error? Is there a way that other people use hammers and don't get injured? So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, or swearing off dating after one bad experience. Like, sometimes you were doing, the action was right or the tool was right. It just wasn't done appropriately or to the right extent or whatever. And it's still worth revisiting and just doing it differently and better.
Tracking calories changed my life, that's for sure. And I know it's not for everyone. It drives me nuts though when people that have never done it, or they listen to people that say tracking calories is an eating disorder, or it caused my eating disorder. It's like, you get what you put into it.
Yeah, it's just such a shame.
It is a shame,
because it really is so useful and so eye-opening. I love comparing food stuff to finances.
I say bank accounts. Yeah.
But all you're doing is looking at your bank statement, and nothing is changed by you documenting it, except that now you can say, oh, I didn't realize X, Y, and Z. Now that I do I want to change any of my behaviors? So it's just such a shame to let, to feel like one experience sours the whole thing when it really could be so beneficial to. I think for me, I haven't tracked in years, but I have so much knowledge now of portion sizes, of what foods are high in which macros, how to put together balanced meals that are appropriate for me, that if you don't already have that knowledge in your brain, it's really pretty essential.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, kind of going through life without understanding the currency. It's like going to a store and not understanding like what dollars are, or not ever looking at price tags and just kind of like wondering why you're always broke or why sometimes you have money. It's like
yes.
the thing to put the pieces together is there. You're just choosing not to look at it. And I think
simple things is like keeping yourself full, like balancing your plate, protein, fats, and carbs. A lot of people are like, well, I'm always hungry. It's like, because you're probably not eating enough protein. You're not eating enough fiber. So really taking a look, it's just an educational tool that everyone should do at least once or twice in their life. And I even think that they should teach this stuff in school in the beginning, so kids know about protein, fats, and carbs and fiber and when to pair them and what makes you full and not, skyrocket your blood sugar. It's just essential nutrition information that everyone should fucking know.
Yeah. I had such a proud mom moment the other day. I talk to my son all the time about protein and fiber and how we want to be strong and healthy and fast. And he did his first road race. We did it as a family and he did a great job. And afterwards I was praising him. And I started to say, it's because you eat. And he was like, I know, Mom, my protein. And I was like, yes. But you're right. It's such an opportunity we have to give our kids a gift that a lot of us weren't given. Nutrition, just like knowing how to do your taxes and all this adult life stuff. This should be something that we're taught as kids.
Because let's be real, a lot of adults right now do not have a fucking clue about basic nutrition.
Right. And look where we are now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's only going to continue unless we break the cycle somehow. And breaking it in ourselves is one of the best ways to then break it for the future generations. But you're right. It should just be commonplace. Right. There should be nutrition education, 101, starting young.
Fucking nailed it.
That nobody has to wonder and, figure this stuff out and beat their heads against walls as adults.
Right.
Yep. And so you mentioned your son in there. How old is your son?
He's 4.5.
He's 4.5. Oh, wow. Okay. And he's already building up that skill set or that knowledge there based off what you're saying with just the protein and everything too. So that's amazing.
Yeah. We talk protein, we talk fiber, we talk about, I'm a kind of a big picture person. So I never really, even with clients, rarely get into the nitty gritty of we eat carrots for the vitamin A.
Yeah, totally. Same here.
Kind of generally, we want to eat lots of colors.
I was we need color. That's what I tell my son. Let's get some color here. And we don't need to get into minerals and micronutrients.
If you want to talk about micronutrients, I'm the wrong guy because I don't care.
Same. And I think it's just an example of kind of majoring in the minors that of course that stuff matters, but generally speaking, if you're doing, most of the stuff most of the time, you're pretty much covered. Exactly. Most people don't need to get that granular, and I think a lot of people do, and then have a hard time because they're so caught up on the tiny stuff that they're overlooking the big stuff.
What are some of those tiny things that people will worry about?
One of the things that I feel like has just always been popular, the intermittent fasting stuff. Should I be fasting for 14 or 16 or 18 or 20 hours, or should I not eat at all, or should I do 36 hours, whatever. I always laugh because I always just sub the word fasting for not eat. When people are like, I fasted for 72 hours. I'm like, oh, you didn't eat for half the week.
Right.
No wonder you're losing weight. That's a big one. Any of the carb, fat, nitty gritty stuff, I'd say with the exception of peri and menopausal women and needing to be a little bit more dialed in with carb intake and stuff like that. But generally the meal timing, the exact specifics of, trying to play macro Tetris all the time, even trying to hit your targets on the nose instead of having a range. I think all of that stuff just kind of distracts from the purpose and does make it feel overwhelming when in reality you can just zoom out. Are you getting pretty close to your calories, your protein, and your fiber? Great. You're 90% of the way there.
You're already ahead of the majority of people in the population anyway, if you do that.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people, when they try to major in the minors, it really stumps them. And they can just let basically not even take action because they're so, side blinded by every little small detail. Oh my God, I'm not eating or drinking a gallon of water. And did I take my collagen this morning? Do I need to do fasted cardio or non-fasted cardio? It's just fucking do something,
Right. You're really putting the cart before the horse here.
God.
Let's just do something. Yep. Yeah. And I think a lot of it stems from, again, the fear of failure and feeling like you need to be perfect in order to do something and not wanting to mess it up. But it's all just so ridiculous. Keep it as simple as possible in a way that allows you to do something. And once you get the ball rolling, then it's much easier to tweak and modify and learn as you go. But you're not going to do any of that if you don't start.
Well, I think part of the problem there is fucking influencers too. Going back to the prime days of Instagram 10 years ago or whatever, They're the ones that were teaching this stuff. The fasted cardio is superior for fat loss. Right now it's 12-3-30 or whatever the fuck it is. Everybody's got this unique protocol, but it's really, they're just, reinventing the wheel and putting a different coat of paint on it or something. It's all the same shit. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, that's not what those people did to
exactly.
Look the way they do.
They're not. Yeah.
Anyway.
They didn't get the results from that. That's just how they're making money now.
Right. Exactly.
With tracking calories and macros, then what is the biggest roadblock there that you see when people make the decision to, all right, I'm going to commit to tracking, for a month straight and see what happens? What do you see as one of the biggest struggles people have with implementing that?
Exactly that, following through on it. The gloss wears off, I don't know, dinner Wednesday. And what you have at the end of the 30 days is a really spotty log where you usually have your breakfast and lunch logged, a dinner here and there, parts of the weekend, and it's a pretty useless reflection of what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that generally the key does lie in what's not there. So if you take a look and you're like, right, your dinners, your weekends, your snacks, your drinks, that's where you want to turn your attention. So I think that's number one, is like, actually commit to what you say you're going to do. And even if you just give yourself a full week, it's so eye-opening. I had a client who, after a couple of years of tracking, finally gave her full best effort for 1 week. Her calories were about double what she had been reporting prior to that. And it was a real moment of awareness for her of like, oh, this stuff really does make a difference. The bites, the taste, the licks, the here and there stuff that feels like it doesn't matter really does. So I think that's a big piece of it. And then I think letting the small things that you don't yet know how to do totally derail the day. So what I see a lot is, making this recipe for dinner and measuring all of the ingredients seems like too much. So how do I estimate it? It's like, well, you take the extra, 45 seconds and you jot down the ingredients on a Post-it note and you create the recipe later. Like, you need to be solutions oriented. And I think a lot of times people are kind of reluctantly like, okay, like, so many people have said I should do this, I guess I'll try it. But they're still looking for reasons why it's not going to work. And focusing on those excuses,
or an easier way out,
highlights them. It's an easier way out, right? So then you can fall back on, see, I knew it. It's too hard. It's too time consuming, whatever.
If you go looking for reasons, you're going to find a reason.
You're going to find them, right? And the flip side of that is that if you go looking for solutions, you will find them too.
Yes.
Whether it's hiring a coach, or asking in a Facebook group, or Googling, right? Or just saying, I'm a smart human being who can figure things out. I can probably get myself through this too. Like, let me just pause for a second and see, what could I do here? And more often than not, you'll find something.
Yeah. Such a golden nugget. Stop looking for the problems and start looking for the fucking solutions.
Yeah.
Right? It's like positive here. You're going to find problems if you keep looking for them.
Exactly.
Gosh, darn it. And you've been in the online space, Esther. I think Hunter's she's like the original OG, online coach.
I've been around for a long time, not successfully for a long time. Back in, when did we move to Virginia Beach? 2014, 2015-ish was when I met my husband out in San Diego and followed him to Virginia Beach and, saw a future with him. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not starting over at a gym every time we move, every 2 to 3 years. I'm building up a clientele and just getting my feet under me and then moving again. So that was the really early days of online coaching. And I saw kind of the pioneers, the Jen Comis and a lot of them aren't around anymore. But I saw kind of the OGs, the ones I consider OGs, doing it. And I was like, all right, well, I'm smart, I'm qualified, surely I can do it. Which then began a several year struggle to figure out all the things. And I was too stubborn to hire a coach and was just kind of trying to do all the things, doing none of them well. Very similar to the approach a lot of people take to weight loss. And I was blogging, I was doing this, I was doing that. It took me years for my husband to finally convince me to hire a coach and to kind of understand what I was doing, get some traction under me. So that was probably 2018 when I really kind of figured out what I was doing. And it's kind of grown from there and then really started to snowball, I guess, in 2019, 2020. To the point that I was able to hire some coaches and, some support in doing the back end work, and had to practice the skill of delegating and not being a one-woman show anymore. But
transition, right?
It's tough. Yeah. Because I mean, it really is. I started the business before the baby, and it really did, kind of feel like my first baby, where I was like, no, only I can do all of these things, and eventually changed my mindset to realize I'm doing myself and my clients a disservice by trying to do it all. We can serve more people better when we divide and conquer, and when I bring on people who are better at certain things than I am. So that's been a real growing experience. But when I allow myself to look back and see how far I've come and how much I've grown in the process of growing a business, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's pretty cool to look back on.
Yeah.
For sure.
It
And
really
I mean,
is.
you as well. So like from TikTok to the podcast, like I feel like in the grand scheme of things, it's like such a tiny snapshot in time.
3 years. So right before COVID, I was still, we were still in the gym, and I saw Jordan and Mike Vacanti were doing like a online business, personal trainer mentorship. And I was thinking, I wanted to do something on my own because my father passed away when I was really young, and my mom lost the house and everything. And my husband was the same age that my dad passed away at the time. And I was like, maybe, I'll start my own online business just to, see where it goes. But, then COVID happened and the gym shut down. So I kind of got thrown into it. So I just put everything in. I homeschooled. Well, obviously we're, homeschool. I was making TikToks in the kitchen, and that's when it started.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Isn't it so cool to see what can happen when you just start?
Right? Like I had no other choice. I know, like I wouldn't be where I am today if COVID did not happen, because I would be just, oh, whatever, I'll start tomorrow. I didn't have there was no urgency.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I feel like nobody knows what they're doing.
Right.
Nobody knows what they're doing as parents, as business owners.
Just figuring it out as we go.
We're just saying earlier, we have no idea what the fuck we're doing. We're just doing it.
I think that's so comforting. And to have people that are actually transparent about it and aren't putting on this facade that like, oh yeah, I have it all figured out.
Somebody tells you they have it all figured out, they're fucking lying. They are lying straight to your face.
Totally.
I'm sorry, but you're a liar.
I feel like people ask like, oh, why did you do this a certain way in your business? I'm like, I don't know. Just seemed like the best thing I could think of at the time. Right? Now here we are.
Yep.
There's no rhyme or reason.
No, we're all just trying to do the best we can here.
Exactly.
We take our setbacks and we learn from them. We hire people to guide us if we need to. We continue our education. We do more research, and we connect with other coaches and people that can help us and we can learn from. And it's just a collaborative effort.
Right. Really all the things that we tell our clients too.
Yeah.
The power of community and being able to ask for help and just learn and stumble and it's fine. That's part of what I think is so cool about people who prioritize their health and want to lose weight or accomplish whatever health goal is the steps that you take to get there. You can sub for any other goal you want to reach. Like, yeah, of course, it's not tracking your food specifically if you're trying to build a business, but there's a very clear formula that you figure out, like, what are the big rocks? What are the key things that I need to be doing that are going to move the needle forward? What's the support that I need in order to do this faster, better, less painfully than if I were on my own? And what are the gaps in my skill set that I need to develop in order to be successful going forward? Like, that's it. That's it for weight loss. That's it for building a business. That's it for being a parent. That's it for everything that you want to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And when you start with your health, not only does everything else get easier, but you prove to yourself, I can do it. I can follow this formula. It works. Where else do I want to apply it? And look where that can take you. Literally anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, definitely. You said something really important right there. Once you focus on your health, kind of everything else will take care of itself. And that is so fucking true. Oh my goodness. I mean, just thinking of when I quit drinking, literally, that was the catalyst for me starting to focus on my health. And when I was drinking, everything was shit. There's no lying. My life was a fucking rolling bowling ball of just crashes. But once you start focusing on your health, everything is just a domino effect into better things happening in your life.
1000%. So start there.
Yeah.
Just start there.
Taking care of yourself. Even if it's 1 10-minute walk a day, you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And literally just getting that ball rolling, you start to build your confidence. You start to build your momentum. You start to then feel more capable to do the next step and to do the next thing. So if everything is feeling bad, if you're not happy in your relationships, if you're not happy at your job, if your kids don't respect you, if you're overweight and tired and cranky all the time, start with your health. And it's going to have this trickle down and kind of ripple effect into everything else.
Yeah, focus on those health promoting activities. If weight loss is a goal of yours, don't focus on the weight loss. Just start trying to be healthier, build healthy habits, identify what your bad habits are, and then work on replacing those bad habits with a new health promoting habit. When you do those things, if weight loss is a goal of yours, it's going to happen. If getting stronger is a goal of yours, it's going to happen. If you focus on health promoting activities, moving more, getting a good night's sleep, eating more protein, more fiber, like you said, all of these things. When you start doing those things, your body will appreciate that and it will respond appropriately.
100%. One of the things I think is super helpful is just asking yourself, like, what would a healthy person do at this juncture? Like, what choice would a healthy person make? And stepping into that identity before you get to your goal weight. Because I think a lot of people have this self-concept, like, oh, I'm just a fat person who's trying to be skinny. Then that identity clouds every choice you make. And you keep kicking the can down the road thinking, well, once I see this number, then I'll be more confident. I'll be a different person. I'll feel better. And it's like, you have to just shift that early on. I am now a fit and healthy person who does what a fit and healthy person does. And along the way, you become that person and then you look like that person. But you can't believe that like the current version of yourself is the true one or the only one. You have to try on that future identity first and work on being him or her sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're going to discover many versions of yourself along the way. Sorry,
yeah.
Beth?
You're a runner as soon as you start running.
Yes.
You're a writer as soon as you start writing. Stop identifying by, just because you didn't run a marathon, you're not a fucking runner.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Always feeling like you need to qualify your accomplishments.
Right.
Oh, I wrote a book, but I self-published it. Or, oh, I ran a half marathon, but it didn't do a very good time. Like, I only lost 5 pounds. Like, stop all of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You did the thing. You're proud of it. Be proud of it. Celebrate it. Use that to fuel you to do more. But there's not like these secret benchmarks or criteria that you have to hit in order to be legitimate. Like, you just are by deciding that you are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
For sure.
Love it.
For sure.
So awesome having you on.
This was so fun.
Yeah.
You guys
so
are so
fun.
easy to talk to. I love listening to the podcast. I'm like so flattered to be among your guests. You've had such high caliber guests.
Oh, I'm so glad that you reached out.
Yeah.
Me too.
Seriously.
Totally.
I'm glad you responded.
Yeah, of course.
we do get a lot of people to reach out, and we don't answer everybody though. So you definitely you're in the right place. So we don't just bring anybody on.
Well, I appreciate that. But yeah, you guys are just doing such awesome stuff. It's so refreshing to see people who are just like, I mean, this is a compliment, just like regular people who are doing the things and are not trying to like make it shiny or flashy or proprietary.
Yeah.
It just doesn't need to be. There's so many people that need help, and there's so many people that need it simplified. And I think the fact that like you guys have such an awesome platform and are doing that is just so amazing.
We just want to make it simple for people. So many, like you said, people overcomplicate fitness. Like these fitness coaches that talk about fucking Krebs cycle and whatever. No one cares. No one fucking cares. Okay? The 45-year-old mom does not give a shit about that. We just basic. Like if I'm trying to teach my 11-year-old son about nutrition, that's why we need to talk to people, because no one's going to understand that other shit.
You're absolutely right. And it's interesting because I used to be so insecure about not remembering that stuff from school.
Me too.
I worked with like some trainers who were like really into, the exercise science and all this stuff that like, I was like, is there something wrong with me? Right. That like that stuff was like in one ear and out the other. And like right.
I have needed that information 0 times in my coaching career.
The mitochondria of the cell? What?
Exactly. And if I did, like I still got the textbook I can pull out if I need to, but it's not necessary for day-to-day life.
Like we work with lifestyle clients, right? That's what this is. They don't, those fucking minor details that apply to maybe 1% of the population, they don't apply to regular people.
That's majoring in the minors.
Exactly. Like, listen, I don't care. Just tell me what's going to work and help me do it. And don't bog me down in the details that like.
And that's the kind of shit that derails people.
Yes.
That's the kind of little nuggets that are flying around that confuse people. And they keep asking us like, should I do this? Should I do that? No. It just really comes down to protein, fiber, carbs, walking, strength training. Like I can't stop repeating myself over and over again, but someone will always ask me something out of this fucking world.
I know. Sometimes it's exhausting that I'm just like,
Yes.
am I really going to go on and say the same thing? Sometimes I'll get like the Facebook reminders of, 4 years ago today, you did a story, and I read it and I'm like, that's about what I said
I'm saying the
yesterday.
same
Let's
thing.
repeat myself today. Let's just use this old story.
Yeah. Totally.
So where can people find you, Esther?
So I am on Facebook and Instagram primarily, Esther.Avant on Instagram, just my full name on Facebook. And I have a podcast called Live Diet Free that you can find all the places.
Awesome.
And then my website is just my full name.
Okay. How long have you been doing the podcast?
About 2.5 years. I think I'm 140 some odd episodes in.
Nice.
Okay. So you do more than one
been
episode a
super fun.
week?
No, well, a few weeks I have. I probably am just bad at math. There were a few weeks that I launched with 3 episodes, and then I had a week where I was doing a promotion and I did 5 episodes. And
Got it.
sometimes I do book reviews that get a little long, so I have to do 2 at once.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's been fun. That's something, talk about getting out of your comfort zone. I consider myself pretty introverted. Never in a million years did I think I would start a podcast, let alone really enjoy it. But it's been super cool. And it's just a nice way, I feel like, for people to get to know who you actually are beyond like these really short snippets on social media. You can really dive into
I agree.
your thoughts, your personality.
Because it's literally like your platform. Like you can do and say whatever you want.
Exactly.
Nobody can take
Yeah,
this from you.
I think that's what
That's
made me
the cool
comfortable
thing.
doing it, I think, because I was like, I don't have to think about like how many eyeballs or ears are listening. I'm literally in my kitchen by myself, treating it like I'm just talking to a single friend. I can be myself. And what comes out is way easier and way better than anything that I'm going to overthink to put on Instagram.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love doing podcasts. I mean, this is my favorite thing to do every week.
So fun. I'm glad you guys started it. You're good at it.
Oh,
Obviously,
thanks.
people like it. So
For some
keep
reason.
doing it.
I thought of a new slogan while you were talking a few minutes ago, though, Esther, is Cut the Crap with Beth and Matt, a regular podcast for regular people.
I like
I mean,
that.
honestly, I think that's so appealing because so many people are like, oh, I don't want like another like fitness, person to make me feel bad that I'm not in the gym 3 hours a day.
Yeah, we don't need another 22-year-old boy without a shirt yelling at me about the potatoes that I'm eating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Somebody who's just normal like me and can give me advice. It's going to work for my busy life and I don't want to do all this stuff. Yeah, it's perfect. I love it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Esther. It was awesome to meet you.
Thank
you, guys.
Hope you enjoyed this episode, so why not share with a friend who needs to hear it? Send us a DM on Instagram or email us at cutthecrappod@gmail.com and join our Patreon at patreon.com/cutthecrappodcast. As always, we appreciate you and thanks for being here.